On a quiet June morning in the small Midwestern industrial town of Middletown, scientist John Keniston walks down Mill Street toward the Industrial Research Laboratories where he works. The street looks completely ordinary. Storefronts are opening for the day, workers are heading toward the mills, and traffic is beginning to fill the roads. Nothing about the morning suggests that history is about to change forever. Suddenly, the sky explodes in a blinding white flash. The burst of light is so intense that Keniston is knocked violently off his feet. The ground heaves beneath him, and his face slams into the dusty pavement. For a moment he lies there stunned, convinced that the catastrophe the world has feared for years has finally arrived. Keniston believes a superatomic bomb has just exploded overhead. Slowly he lifts his head and struggles to his feet. But when he looks around, something doesn't make sense. The town is still standing. Buildings are intact. Cars and streetcars remain where they were. People are rising shakily from the pavement, but nothing appears destroyed. A young policeman nearby has also been knocked down. As he gets to his feet, he approaches Keniston and asks what just happened. Keniston grimly tells him that it must have been a superatomic bomb. The officer immediately rejects the idea. He reasons that if a bomb that powerful had really exploded over Middletown, the entire town would have been annihilated. Instead, the policeman convinces himself that the explosion must have been a harmless failure. He explains that newspapers have been warning about terrifying superatomic weapons for years, but perhaps those bombs never actually worked at all. Maybe the flash they just saw was nothing more than a gigantic fizzle. Keniston wants to believe that explanation, but then he notices something strange. The sunlight feels different. Instead of the warm, golden brightness of a normal morning, the light has a dim reddish color, and the air feels noticeably colder than it should. When Keniston looks up at the sky, he sees something that chills him. The sun no longer looks like the blazing star everyone knows. Instead, it appears as a dull red ball hanging in the sky, surrounded by faint flickers of flame. It is so dim that he can stare directly at it without hurting his eyes. While the policeman continues explaining that the explosion must have been harmless, Keniston begins to consider a darker possibility. He quietly suggests that maybe the bomb did work after all. Maybe it destroyed them completely. Maybe Middletown is no longer even on Earth. The policeman angrily dismisses the idea and insists that they are obviously standing right where they always have been. But when he follows Keniston's gaze and looks up at the strange red sun, the officer begins to feel the same uneasiness. Something about the world is wrong. Trying to ignore the unsettling sight, Keniston continues on toward the Industrial Research Laboratories, determined to find out what really happened. Inside the laboratory, he meets several other scientists who are also knocked down by the mysterious flash. The researchers quickly begin discussing the event, and it becomes clear that no one can explain what has occurred. Even more troubling, all communication with the outside world has stopped. Telephones bring no response, and radio signals fail to reach anyone beyond Middletown. Then a frightened local electrician named Johnson arrives with alarming news. He explains that when he drove out toward his farm just outside town, he discovered that something impossible had happened. Part of his farmland has vanished. Where there should have been fields of corn, there is now a strange and barren landscape unlike anything he has ever seen. The scientists realize they need a better view of the surrounding area. Keniston and Dr. Hubble climb the town's water tower to look beyond the city limits. From the top of the tower, the truth becomes terrifyingly clear. The familiar countryside surrounding Middletown is gone. Instead of green farmland, the town now sits in the middle of a vast yellow wasteland filled with unfamiliar hills and strange formations. The world outside Middletown no longer resembles the Earth they know. As Hubble studies the sky and the strange red sun, he begins calculating the positions of the stars. What he discovers is almost impossible to believe. The stars are no longer where they should be. After completing his calculations, Hubble finally explains the only conclusion that fits the evidence. The superatomic bomb did not destroy Middletown. Instead, the explosion shattered space and time itself. The entire town has been hurled millions of years into the future. The red sun above them is their own sun, aged and dying in a far distant era. And Middletown now stands alone in a world where all of human civilization may already be gone.